Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. I'm in studio today with our founder and chief editor, Bill Moore. How's it going, Bill?
Yeah, it is going well, apart from the fact that it was 100 degrees yesterday and supposed to be 100 degrees today. So, yes, warm. And then we got the river flooding.
Oh
So,
yeah, that's nuts. I drove by the Missouri yesterday, and it's full of debris and
yeah.
trees and stuff flooding. It's just crazy. It's like I didn't even realize we'd had some flood up north that took out a bridge
Oh,
and
yeah.
all
Well,
that.
and it's in danger of taking out part of a dam up in up
Minnesota.
that area, too. So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
saw that. I saw that.
So
Yeah,
that,
usually when we have flooding, it's because of the snow melt. And I don't know what this is really. We have had a lot of rain
this
this
was
year, though.
unusual. Yeah, this was unusually heavy rain, and they got some more yesterday, and we're supposed to get some more, get some tonight. So I'm glad I'm on high ground.
Yeah, I heard
There's a couple.
Tapio Creek is really flowing heavy too. Yeah,
Yeah,
so I played tennis yesterday when it was 100 out. It was really, really hot.
yeah.
That's really hot
But
for
I walked
Nebraska.
early in the morning, and I walked again this morning, really
Yeah.
early. So
Well, anyways, let me say, so today we're going to talk a little bit about the European battery passports. We're going to talk about EV education still has a long ways to go. How Arizona accidentally banned e-bikes for kids. And the big story is the South Korea lithium battery plant fire. And then we've got a couple more things we're going to discuss about David Berman's op-ed on rebates, and
right,
then something on city planning from AI Insights.
right,
So
yeah.
anyways, so here we go. So let's talk a little bit first. We're going to discuss the EU battery passport. So Volvo saw this coming, but apparently the EU is gearing up to support manufacturers. It's going to be mandatory starting in February of 27. So any battery over, I think, bigger than 2 kilowatt hours.
Kilowatt hours, yeah.
Yeah. So what would be the smaller than a 2 kilowatt? A bicycle battery?
Yeah, probably yeah, anything smaller than I would say an electric scooter or an electric um, motorcycle, that type of thing. Those
Okay.
all batteries
This
over to
because the smallest
most.
I was going to say the smallest I've seen in the tiny in the low speed electric vehicles is 10 kilowatt hours.
Yeah.
And that's
So that's your golf carts and things of that nature.
Oh no, this is a 4-door car with a 100-mile range.
Oh well, yeah. Well, that's probably a quadricycle then.
Yeah, but a 2 kilowatt hour, man, that might be a golf cart. That a golf cart might.
Yeah. Well, they're introducing cars over there. In fact, I got a photograph that I mounted or that I put on the particular editor's choice today, where you can actually pull the batteries, and it looks like it's got two of them in it that sort of plug and play. So if you live in a European city and there's no chargers nearby, you simply pull this thing out about the size of a briefcase. I'm sure it weighs a lot more. Pull that out and you can take it up to your apartment and plug it in and charge it. I don't know what the capacity of that is. It's called the company Squad Mobility. And so I'm assuming that anything that size and then up, of course, will have to have these passports. Now, how the passports work is that they are part of a tracing inventory kind of control system that uses blockchain technology to, once you've got this data in the blockchain, there's no way to alter it other than as it passes along through the blockchain, you add new pieces to that particular blockchain, but you can't go back and redo the origin, from where it came or, whatever the issues might be. So it's a positive step forward. It's something that I'm sure that we'll eventually see here, particularly, places where they have had this problem with fires from the, delivery bikes in New York City and things like that. Although, because it's 2 kilowatt, it may not actually apply to that class of bike. So we'll probably see something else at some point that'll include them in it. But that's a big step forward. It also involves a lot of technology and server space. We've got this demand for electricity that is growing. I think I just saw something that they expect by like 2027 or something, some number in that area, not that far in the future, where electricity demand will double globally.
Yeah, it's nuts. Musk said that next year we're going to have demand exceeding supply of electricity.
Oh, well, particularly, you know where that's all coming from. That's all, of course, coming from not the EVs.
The data centers.
It's coming from the data centers. Yeah.
Right. So the battery passports are going to record the origins of all the raw materials, components, recycled content, and carbon footprint of all these batteries. It did delineate that 2 kilowatt hours or bigger batteries will include bigger e-bikes, micro cars, marine batteries, and any application in any battery chemistry. So fundamentally, all manufacturers need to be able to demonstrate where the raw materials came from, that they've met the regulatory due diligence requirements within their supply chain. They've calculated a carbon footprint per battery and provided the consumer with the ability to look it up, including the residual battery life. That's an obligation on anyone putting a battery above the size onto the market, which should apply equally to micromobility. And Volvo has put the flag in the sand, showing that these digital passports are possible at production scale, and now other automakers are rushing to create their own to meet the 2027 deadline.
Yep.
So that's interesting to see, where they're going to take battery tech. Now, let's go on and let's talk about this. So we had a story about a community Tesla interview shows that EV education still has a long ways to go. And this was an article that came from Australia.
Yeah, it's out of Australia.
And it's basically saying that this EV owner was surprised that most people didn't know that Model Y is the best-selling car in the world. And I will tell you, I don't think very many people really know that. Now, it's not the best-selling car in the United States. I think it's like third or fourth in the U.S., but all the vehicles ahead of it, all the vehicles ahead of the Model Y are all pickup trucks in the United States.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, but globally, the Model Y is the best-selling car. And anyways, that's an odd thing to not know. But I guess, why would most people know what the best-selling cars are? I mean, how important is that thing? But I've noticed, I've had a lot of conversations with people recently about the EV tax credits, and especially the used car tax credits. I've heard people talking about, like they don't have a car, they need to get a car. And there are people who don't make a lot of money, and it's like, hey, this is free $4,000 you can use for down payment and to get one. And I don't think the dealers are educating people. But also a lot of dealers don't have a plug-in hybrid or electric vehicle to sell that fit, that's under $25,000. And so I'm not saying there's necessarily a shortage. If you do some research, there's lots of them available. Carvana does a real nice job. I'm not a fan of Carvana, but their website does a really nice job of identifying vehicles that are eligible.
And in your geographic area. I mean, you can expand it out to nationally.
Yeah, they do, but they list all kinds of cars that I'd never even heard of that are eligible, but it's eligible for both a full electric vehicle and a plug-in hybrid. And there's a lot of options out there. Chevy Volts. I always talk about that Cadillac ELR because that's the real steal out there if you can live with a two-door car. I mean, there's some nice looking cars in that space. There's lots of Tesla Model 3s, and there's just a lot of options. The only thing that's a challenge for that with the Tesla Model 3, a lot of your people that really need help buying a used car live in apartments, and
what are you going to do?
I mean, it's a difficult situation. Even the plug-in hybrid isn't necessarily ideal in an apartment complex. But if you have at least 110-volt power, you can get run out to your car from somewhere, and you can plug that car in overnight. You pretty much will stop using gas.
Yeah, if you've got a the average commute 30 miles or so, you can easily get that in the 8 hours that the car's been plugged in. 110, the kind of thing you run your computer off of, and you run your
Right.
microwave and your coffee pot, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
Yeah. So
it works
it's
because I did it for 3 years. So I proved it can be done.
yeah, and but it's interesting to see because most people just have no idea about so much. Not we had somebody on for an interview last week, and he was talking about how so much of the failure in the EV space to date has to do with just education. People don't really know what they're talking about when it comes to EVs. I see all these things. Oh, EVs are junk. Chinese cars are junk. It's like, well, we don't sell Chinese EVs in the United States, but there's probably
Well,
some that are junk. I'm sure there's plenty of them that are, but
I've seen them. Yes,
yes, but the
in
BYDs and the
Mexico, not
Neos and
here. In
yeah,
Mexico.
yeah, they're quality cars, and they're gonna eventually kill U.S. The U.S. brands that are selling overseas because the U.S. brands were considered to be a premium brand,
Yeah, and
for
now,
people overseas, just like we like German cars here in the United States are premium. American cars had the same look in countries like China, and China is the world's largest car market, and it's being overrun with EVs. People are stopping buying gas cars there. So you're really seeing a change, and it's just people don't
well,
get it. I see so many people saying, "Oh, EV sales are slowing down." Yeah, the United States are slowing down from 7% of new cars to 11%. Yeah,
yeah,
they're slowing down
yeah,
in reverse.
yeah,
Yeah, but you just don't know what to think.
yeah.
But I,
And
I
and and
just
we'll sort of bring this up in the David Berman op-ed out at the Globe
okay.
and Mail. Okay,
All right,
because
I got
he
kind of a
touches on this.
All right, our next topic is kind of funny. So this is Arizona passed a law to make it so that kids could, without a driver's license, couldn't be riding around on like four wheelers. And it was really kind of aimed at like gas four wheelers and
Hmm.
motorcycles and things like
Right,
that without a
ATVs. Yeah.
license. But it accidentally outlawed off-road e-bikes for kids. And this was kind of funny. That wasn't the intent of the bill, but they wrote it in such a way that it made it a criminal offense in Arizona to be operating. Let me see. They need to have a valid driver's license and driver training, but it accidentally did the kids e-bikes. I don't
Yeah.
know. They'll have to do something to fix that, but it just goes to show you a lot of times politicians will pass stuff and they really don't know what
They
they're
have
voting on or
no clue. Yeah. So I
yeah.
mean, that
So
was it was well intentioned, I'm sure, because I'm sure there, kids have been hurt and accidents caused and things like that. But as we know, good intentions sometimes have bad outcomes. So yeah, I think it'll probably get redone. I mean, and this is a phenomenon that you see happening. California, they were having some issues there in Southern California. A kid went out and apparently got hurt or killed. I don't remember exactly the circumstances, but it was enough, to we got to ban these things. We can't have them, riding them. Well, yeah, I understand where that's coming from, but we have to have some moderation in these things.
all right, well,
I'm
let's get to.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, let's go ahead and get to the story that everybody really wants to see today.
Yeah,
And that this
yeah,
is so. Yesterday, there was a fire in South Korea lithium battery
yeah,
plant, killed
yeah,
22 workers.
yeah,
So let's see what we get here. So I may skip ahead a little bit, but there's
yeah.
what it looks like. Let's see. Um, a series of battery cells exploded. I don't know exactly what that constitutes, with some 35,000 units. Now, these are small batteries. These weren't EV batteries,
No,
but
these are not
what were
EV
they? They were like
batteries.
watch batteries or phone batteries.
These are what you refer to as button cells. So those little tiny cells that you buy, like the one I just had put in my in my watch. Or the battery that goes into your car opener. your fob or whatever. It's that type of battery we're talking about. That is technically a lithium metal. In fact, there's actually a lithium thiodine or something like that that make those up. They are non-rechargeable batteries. The company here in South Korea is called Aricel, something like that, possibly. And that's the only type of battery that they make, just the little button cells. I'm sure they'll have an investigation to figure out what the cause was, but it wasn't what you would think is sort of the typical, oh my God, that car battery blew up, right? Or the motorcycle or the e-bike or the scooter, different type of battery entirely. So that was the first thing I wanted, because my fear was, oh God, we've got another, problem with automotive lithium batteries, and this is not the case. These are the little tiny ones you buy at the drugstore. That comes in a pack of 5 or 6 or whatever it is.
It's still terrible to believe that 22 workers died from this.
Yes, interestingly, those most of those workers, I think 17 of them, were Chinese nationals that had come to work at the plant. Two of them were Korean. Another one, I understand, was Laotian. So yeah, I mean, it's tragic and it's horrible. I heard that a lot of those, read that a lot of those deaths may have been because of smoke inhalation, and not because there was, catastrophic hurtling of metal, as the thing exploded. That it was more of the fire and the smoke that was the main cause of the deaths.
It says that the workers were on the second floor location, and they likely lost consciousness and succumbed within seconds.
Yeah.
And the factory had 35,000 different lithium batteries on hand. 17 Chinese, 1 Laotian, the rest were South Koreans. Most of them were temporary workers, which was run by South Korea-based Aricel, which is majority owned by a company called S-Connect. And
so, hopefully they'll get to the bottom and they'll figure out what the problem, what caused that. Was it, faulty maintenance? Somebody smoking a cigarette that shouldn't have been smoking a cigarette in an area? There's all kinds of, you would think there'd be numerous safeguards and things like that, but somehow or another, it got through whatever those barriers are, and led to a tragic situation.
The fire began when a series of battery cells exploded, although it remains unclear what triggered the initial explosions. It was difficult to enter the site initially due to fears of additional explosions. And
it's hard to, I mean, how do you take those little button cells and get those to explode? I mean, you're talking what here? Less than 3 volts and, microwatts.
I mean, it's definitely a mystery as to why something like that would, explode, and cause that big of a fire to burn out that facility. But I guess, in chain reaction, they all just kept catching on fire.
Yeah.
So that was definitely.
Well, the other issue I have is that there isn't, the thing that causes the fires in a lithium battery is generally the liquid electrolyte, right? That's the flammable part of those batteries. These particular ones, I don't know if, they're like that thick. I mean, how is there an electrolyte in there that's flammable? These are lithium metal batteries as opposed to lithium ion batteries. So I don't know. I don't know enough about the chemistry and issues, and maybe one of our listeners here can inform the rest of us as to how that could be possible. But I don't know. I wouldn't think it would be sabotage. I don't know why.
Were these not lithium ion?
No, these are not lithium ion. These are not lithium ion batteries. These are lithium Thionel or something like that. It's completely different kind of chemistry, and there's no electrolyte that I'm aware of in there that causes the that is potentially flammable. So
okay, yeah. So it's not LFP either. which,
No, no,
it
no.
seems like the LFP batteries are having far less fires
Oh
in
yeah, yeah, yeah,
EVs. So
yeah. No, it's
that's decent.
completely different chemistry, completely different structure, completely different footprint. You know, they're the size of my thumbnail.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, it's just hard to fathom that those
yeah.
did what they did. All right, so our next discussion. Let's talk about the David Berman editorial.
This is interesting because I saw that headline and it said to the effect that EV rebates are fine, but this is better. And of course, the question is, what is this, right? And now David Berman is a editorial a columnist for at the Globe and Mail in Toronto, so we'll obviously have a Canadian slant on this. And I'm thinking, what's better? What have you guys in Canada come up with? Can we learn from it? And basically, what he's saying in the article is that EVs have overcome a sufficient number of barriers that the need for rebates is becoming progressively less because they're just simply they're catching on. And while it's nice to get some kind of a handout from the government, obviously that's expensive. It's taxpayer dollars. It would appear that we're getting to the point. I don't know if we're quite there yet, but we're getting to the point to where it isn't as much of an incentive as the choices of vehicles that are available, the performance of the vehicles, the existence of charging infrastructure, the fun nature of the car, and the sheer number. He mentions in there that there are now 500 different EV models available globally.
Wow.
I had no idea. Now does that include motorcycles and bicycles? I don't know if that's 500 automotive versions. I'm not aware of that many, but 500 EV models. It's getting to the point to where it's not just a handful of cars that you can choose from. Getting completely, complete choices of what you can get that's a good thing, and that's starting to sway people in the direction of, hey, I might go EV, and they are.
Well, I think of a lot of it too is like we were talking earlier, dealerships aren't educating people on what kind of programs are available to them. And it seemed, if I were a car salesman, I think I'd be all over that $4,000 and $7,500 rebate program, because that's just an easy way for somebody to pick up another car.
Get on the phone and say, hey, did you know we've got this beautiful model in, and that you qualify from our previous working with you and providing service for you, you can get this car now for under some number because of the $4,000 rebate. Would you go down and look?
Yeah, I think it's pretty amazing. I've told lots of people about it, and they're like, no way. And I'm like, yeah, look at this car. It's like 15 grand. You can get $4,000 back from the government at the time of purchase.
Yeah, or like the lucky lady in Colorado we talked about last week.
Oh yeah, that was nuts.
Less than $7,000. Sorry, less than $700.
Yeah, that was nuts. That Nissan Leaf deal lady bought for it was $7,700, and or 7650 total, and she got 7,000. She got 4,000 in federal and 3,000 from Colorado, and so she only paid like $650 for the damn car. And she was talking about, she had heated steering wheel, heated seats, all these other features she'd never had before, and we're not really big on the Nissan Leaf, but damn, that's hard to pass up. I mean, that's a bicycle.
They were the first OEM mass manufactured pure electric car at the time. I mean, that was huge, step forward, of faith, out there when, GM wasn't going to build one like that. Oh, we'll build one with a plug, but have gasoline as a backup. So, what are we looking at?
I'm just looking around.
Oh, okay.
I'm
talking too much.
No, no, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Um, anyways,
So education of consumers,
yeah,
huge
education of
need, whether they're in
consumers.
Australia or whether they're in Austin, right?
Yeah. I had somebody telling me yesterday that some Tesla driver got trapped in their car and that they got locked in the car and they couldn't open the windows and they couldn't open the
Yeah.
doors. I'm like, I hadn't heard about this, but apparently it was news
No,
somewhere.
yeah, it happened. And the lady was complaining that her child was in the car, an infant. I don't know the age, but an infant got trapped in the car. And this sparked, there was an article a guy wrote that says, what if Tesla cars were not just AI driven, artificial intelligence driven, but not aesthetic. What was the word he was using? But that they were driven by ethics driven. And so he laid out a scenario where the app on your phone is communicating with the car, which it sort of already does anyway, and that it notices this power drop and it comes up and it sends you a message that says, here's how you unlock your car, right? But apparently somewhere under the center console in the front seat, there is a hidden latch that you can pull and really it lets the doors open up and release. So, and so he's saying, well, that would be nice if you had an app that would suddenly tell you, hey, your car is locked and you can't get in or you can't get out. Here's how you address that problem.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a concern, and again,
I found the article. So the lady drained her battery, and her
automotive battery, the traction
no,
battery,
the full Tesla battery. She ran it dead.
Okay.
And she was apparently she'd driven home and never charged her car or something, and got in it, and it had run down. And she attempted to go for a drive. She unplugged the car. Oh, said she had it plugged in. Shut the door. Everything shut down. I couldn't open the windows. When she contacted Tesla's service, they told her how to use the latch in the glove box.
Right. Yeah.
Not unique. Many Tesla drivers are reported being trapped inside their vehicles when the battery dies and all electronics shut down. I just can't imagine.
Well, say that my understanding, and again, I'm not a Tesla expert by any means. I'm an admirer at best. And whoop, thank you. My phone just went off. And that it has, well, I'm going to speak from mine. Mine has a 12-volt battery in my Fiat to power up the electronics. And so when the 12-volt goes bad, the electronics won't work. Therefore, the car won't start.
So you know what? I'm sorry, it wasn't the main EV battery. It was the regular car battery that failed.
It was the 12-volt.
It was the 12-volt. And yeah, just say that all Tesla owners should familiarize themselves where the manual door release is.
Yeah. In the glove box, apparently. I thought it was under the center console, the glove box. It's probably even better.
Yeah. That's crazy. Anyways, I get I don't even know what to say about that. I had somebody telling me about that, and it's like I hadn't heard about the story. So
yeah, well, yeah, they have the what they call a dog mode, right? That you can lock your car in a Tesla, and it'll maintain a comfortable temperature for your dog, so you don't have to worry about your dog, being dying of heat frustration. So, but apparently Tesla had, when their latest update, apparently something is impacting that. So they sent out an alert to Tesla owners, don't use the dog mode because we've got an issue with it and we need to fix. So again, it's software, complicated, doesn't take, I code a little bit. And all I have to do is have a semicolon out of place and it won't work. So it's that, it can be frustrating to, and particularly if you've got a car that's got probably millions of lines of code and trying to, make one little change here, and damn, that's connected to something somewhere completely on the other system, and maybe somebody else has written and impacts it. So if you have a dog and you're using the dog mode, check with Tesla to see if your car is impacted by that cautionary note. So
All right. So our last thing for today, you want to talk about our AI insights on city planning.
Yeah, we all like our cars, right? I mean, Europe, they are small enough and tightly packed enough and things and they've got a, fairly good public transit system that they've had there for, decades. So for them to, I'm going to take a bike, I'm going to take the local tram to get around, do my shopping, right? I'll just go down and walk to the grocery store and things. In America, we decided at some point after Henry Ford invented the Model T and made it affordable for the middle class to afford cars, we decided to build out suburbia. Mm-hmm. And then the process of that, we implemented zoning laws that said these things can't be here. And so, yeah, I have a grocery store nearby, mile and a half away. I can walk there, and I've seen some people do that. But generally, what's going to happen? You're going to jump into your F-150, and you or your minivan or your SUV, and you're going to go down and pick up a few items at the grocery store. And I'll put up my hand and say, I've done that. I'm guilty of that, although I've tried more often than not to use the bicycle. So we built this infrastructure thing that requires in America you own a car. It's just the way it is. The industry is not located there. So I decided, well, how are we going to fix this? We know we need to cut carbon emissions, but who of us wants to give up our car, right? So how did, particularly in city, now Omaha, maybe not so much, but some of the bigger cities, congested areas, how do we do that? So I decided I would ask Pi, which is the AI, one of the AI. I've started using ChatGPT and Deep AI and some of those. But I decided to ask it this question. How can cities best structure themselves to balance automobile access while reducing emissions and making streets safer and healthier for their citizens? Okay. So AI responds, in this case, Pi AI responds, balancing automobile access with reduced emissions and improved safety and health for citizens can be achieved through various urban planning strategies and policies. Here are some suggestions. Can I go through them?
Sure.
Okay. Number one, prioritize, I'll get it right, prioritize public transportation. Develop and promote efficient and accessible public transportation systems such as buses, trams, and trains to reduce the reliance on personal vehicles. Now, what is interesting, of course, is you've been following the Omaha, what do we call that thing? It's not a subway, it's not a tram, but it's, trolley car, the streetcar. Right. Omaha streetcar program. Apparently, they are beginning to see some positive economic benefits even before the thing's been built, which is interesting. So that's a positive thing. So anyway, you should do buses, trams, and trains to reduce reliance on personal vehicles. Encourage active transportation. Invest in infrastructure for walking and cycling, including dedicated bicycle lanes, bike lanes, pedestrian-friendly sidewalks, and safe intersections. Number two, implement low-emission zones. Establish areas within the city where access is restricted for high-emission vehicles, promoting the use of cleaner transportation options. And of course, anyone who's planning on going to Paris for the Olympics next month will probably experience this because they are making significant efforts to try to cut the automobile traffic through the center of Paris. In fact, a few weeks ago, they actually shut down a portion of the Champs-Élysées and set it up for picnics, a picnic ground in the middle of the street for people. So they said, so implement these low emission zones. London has that. New York is currently struggling whether it wants to implement one or not. They have proposed it. Apparently, the governor has kind of backed off, but there's pressure to bring it back. Promote carpooling and shared mobility. That's some kind of like Musk is interested in that. Encourage the use of carpooling, ride sharing, and other shared mobility options to reduce the number of individual car trips. Number 4, encourage electric vehicles, provide incentives for the adoption of electric vehicles, including charging infrastructure and tax credits to reduce emissions from personal vehicles. Number 5, there's only 6 here, so we'll be finished. Improve land use planning, create mixed use neighborhoods. This is what I'm coming back to. Once upon a time, you did have a neighborhood grocery. In fact, there's an area I thought it was interesting in the older part of Kansas City. There's a neighborhood down there where my cousin's brother-in-law, my wife's cousin's husband, her family ran one of those little neighborhood stores.
That's we're starting to have some mixed-use apartment developments coming in around Omaha. You got that one even out kind of towards where you live, out at about 114th.
Luxury 96. They've got that happening.
They've got the restaurants, the bars, they've got other places all in the apartment complexes, and I like that.
Yep, they're starting to happen, and also they're building something. They've already done something like that also out on 132nd, just to the east of to the west of the ballpark. So it's starting to happen.
I lived in mixed use. I used to live in Fairfax, Virginia, which is a DC suburb, and we had a convenience store, we had a Chinese restaurant, we had a couple other places that were all at the base of the building. It was real nice. I'm sure those places just were killing it in terms of how much they made just off the apartment complex.
Yeah, they're doing that actually in La Vista. Down on 84th Street, they're building that sort of apartment complex, and all that is included with mixed use businesses and things. So it's great, and it's happening. And
so you folks that are watching can appreciate. Bill and I live in Nebraska. We're not Omaha. While it's got a metro of about 800,000 people, it is not like living in New York or Chicago or LA. So these things are a little different for us. And so we sometimes offer a bit of a different perspective on some of these things, just because we live in a more rural state. And, we have big yards. We all have to mow the grass, and no matter where you're at here, I have coyotes come through my yard. It's not something if you're a city dweller, unless you're in LA. I've mentioned this once before. LA County is the #1 place for people to be killed by coyotes.
Yeah, or mountain lions. They've had that.
Half of all coyote killings in North America are in Los Angeles County.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we didn't get to number 6, I don't think.
Yeah, so they said create mixed use neighborhoods, and that's starting to happen. That course also involves some zoning changes, which is required for work access within walking. Make them accessible within walking or cycling distance, reducing the need for car trips. Implement traffic calming measures, use speed limits, traffic circles, and we're actually signals incorporated here as well now, which is exciting. But you drive down Lincoln Street, which is kind of how the city is planning it wants to develop around that street. They've put in those traffic circles, what we called when I lived in the UK, roundabouts. Other traffic calming measures to reduce speeds and improve safety and pedestrian cyclists. And finally, number 6, invest in green spaces, increase urban green spaces such as parks and tree-lined streets to reduce air pollution, mitigate urban heat island effect, and improve overall well-being of the residents. These strategies can be tailored to the specific needs and characteristics of each city, ultimately leading to a more sustainable and livable urban environment. Thank you, Bob.
I really, that's really good, but I really like your next one. How much money did Berkshire Hathaway make from its investment? This is staggering, because I tell people all the time they've never heard of BYD. I go, look, Warren Buffett owns a big chunk of BYD.
Yeah.
And at one point they owned as much as 21%, but they've sold off quite a bit.
Yeah, they're sold off.
It appears that her initial $230 million investment they put in BYD has returned them about $12 billion.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you think you know more about how bad EVs are than Warren does, then he's made $12 billion off of it. Outside of Elon Musk and a few other people, not many people have made that much money off of EVs.
No.
Okay. He's made a killing. But he does say he will not invest in another Chinese company.
No.
So
no.
He probably has his misgivings.
He hit it out of the ballpark with that.
Yes, with BYD. Now, despite the fact that I like Chinese EVs, if you ever tune into our Friday stock show, we always advise people, do not buy their stocks. Okay. So there's manipulation. I don't think they're fair trade partners. There's a lot of other issues with the Chinese stocks.
And you probably saw the articles where people were saying that the reason why the Chinese have gotten where they are is because the Chinese government invested $230 billion to help them get to that point. And so they hired a gentleman named Wang Gang, who used to work who's a Chinese national, went to work in Europe for Audi, learned everything he could there, came back in the mid-90s, early 90s, and got appointed as the Minister of Economic Development or Technology or whatever it was, and started promoting the development of electric vehicles. I was there for a symposium in 1998. And I believe he was there to speak at that symposium. Unfortunately, I was so jet lagged that I think I slept through half of it. but in '98, they were already holding worldwide symposium on the development of electric vehicle technology. And of course, look where they are now. So the caveat to that is that since the Biden administration has come in, the federal government has put significantly more money than the Chinese did to get us to catch up with them. So hopefully that's an investment that will pay off for all of us. It certainly paid off for the Chinese.
But was that $230 billion in today's dollars or when it was actually spent?
Oh, it was probably in today's dollars. Yeah.
Okay.
It had the articles that I saw did not clarify whether that was 230 over, in so many dollars, but that was the round number, 230 billion.
You hear me talk about how I think the U.S. big three are failing in the EV space, while at the same time we see Toyota, who says they're not going big on EVs, making the biggest battery facility in the United States. And then you've got Hyundai Kia building a 300,000 a year plant that's already started producing cars. It's already got the first EV9s have already rolled off the line in Georgia. And you're seeing significant investment from these foreign companies into the US EV space. So it's encouraging.
And I expect that at some point it will get negotiated to, all right, NIO or whoever you want to name, BYD, whatever. Although BYD is putting a lot of money into their Mexican plant, something that they anticipate hiring about 10,000 workers for the Mexican EV plant. So, but I would suspect at some point, whoever is in Congress and whoever's in the White House will say, okay, you can come here, but, you have to, just like you required us when we went to China to make all these investments and allow partnerships, you need to come here and do a similar thing. Of course, Ford tried that and got all kinds of, stuff from with cattle, as you say, CATL, and all kinds of, opposition from local residents that didn't want that plant there, which I suspect wasn't so much about the plant as it was the politics, of EV, because we know it's become very politicized, unfortunately, and.
Yeah, but you know what? If I were the CEO of one of the big three, well, if I were GM, I'd bring back Saturn. Would be my first move. I'd bring back Saturn as an EV only brand.
Well, yeah,
and it would use, so when it used to be out, it was no haggle pricing.
right.
Okay, which is what Tesla does. Okay, it's working. And if you had an EV only brand from one of the US big three, I think it could work in the dealership model. The thing is, then they can't be adding that extra crap on there, but they could still maintain margins. I also think that one of the big three should buy Rivian. Okay, I think that would be a
Yeah.
really solid move for them. It looks like a Ford brand to me. I mean, the Rivians and the Broncos look so similar right now. It would
Oh,
kind of make
yeah.
a lot
No,
of
true.
sense. And
Yeah.
I think it would be a good move for one of them, because the problem with the big three is they're trying to take their existing cars and turn them into EVs, whereas the
Yeah.
successful EV companies started out trying to make EVs and then make them look like beautiful cars.
Right.
And so what's happening is it's costing Ford and GM and Stellantis an arm and a leg. Now I am looking forward to seeing this $25,000 Jeep that comes out from Stellantis as an
Yeah, that'll be
EV.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be competitive if that's really true. But the other one is Canoo. You know, you like Canoo. Canoo
I
would
like
be
Canoe.
an ideal company for one of them to pick up.
Yep.
Mullen Automotive, maybe
Yeah.
another one that's a pure EV one. These companies aren't real expensive on the stock market. It's like, GM or Ford or Stellantis could gobble up most of the float in any of those four companies. And it could make a huge difference in their own capacity. I mean, you look at it, while I don't talk about Mullen much anymore because it seems to be a real shit show of what's going on with their management. They
Yeah.
are making good progress. Their Bollinger Motor division
I
just
know.
announced their Class 4
Yeah.
trucks
Yeah.
came out.
I interviewed Bollinger, the CEO of the company. Wow. Just after they debuted their first model.
Mhm.
So yeah, I
Yeah,
asked him, why do you look like a Land Rover?
it's funny, but I'm looking at, they bought the Nicola's battery plant out of California. There's
Yeah.
all these things that Mullen did, which I thought were pretty good moves, but some reason they really haven't managed their stock, and they've done insider deals on stock that just haven't been kosher with investors. But that would be something that they're so cheap, it would make sense for one of the bigger companies to come in and swoop in and buy them. Canoo. Rivian's at a low price, but I'm just saying that any of those companies could make a big difference
Yeah.
in where the manufacturer going. But if I were Mary Barra, I would for sure bring back the Saturn brand, because the Saturn car
What are they?
names, like the
Yeah.
Aura and some others, they even
Oh,
sound like EVs.
yeah. I wonder, what are they doing? I wonder what are they doing at the Spring Hill plant anyway?
I don't know.
Down in Tennessee. I think it was Tennessee, or was it
I'm sure they
Kentucky?
sold it to somebody else. It's probably owned by somebody like Nissan or something
Yeah,
like that.
someone like that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying that there's these things that if I were one of them that I would do, because the current dealer model is in the US is failing the EV space. And the dealers want to complain that it's a problem that people don't want EVs. Well, you're clearly not trying to sell them that, whereas if Saturn was only an EV dealership, then people would come back and look at it. But
Yeah.
that's my 2 cents. Anyway, we've gone
Okay.
long enough today,
We've
Bill.
gone long enough, and thank you for all of you people that have hung in there
Yeah.
and listened to us dialogue
Yes.
on these things.
And once again, if you have,
Rant.
yeah, please follow us, like and
Yep.
subscribe, share this content with somebody else. And, once again, thanks for watching.